Hi, my name is Nathan Boone, and today I would like to share with you about one of my life's greatest passions. For years, I believed the gospel, and I knew it well. I understood the gospel, and I believed that Christians are supposed to share the gospel, but I didn't know how to share the gospel. Nobody had ever trained me to share the gospel. Then I got involved with a summer ministry program called Christian Youth in Action. The mission of Christian Youth in Action is to train and mobilize teens to share the gospel and teach the Bible to children in their local area. What does that look like? The first step is, at the beginning of the summer, Christian Youth in Action hosts a week-long training camp for teens all over the state to come together and learn how to share the gospel and the Bible with children. Teens are trained to teach evangelistic Bible lessons, to teach evangelistic songs, to teach memory verses, to play games with children that will help them learn biblical truths, to teach prayer to children, and especially to share the gospel with children. If you can share the gospel with a child, you can share the gospel with someone of any age and of any level of biblical understanding. Have you ever seen one of these before? Christian Youth in Action trains young people to use this evangelistic tool to share the gospel with children. You can see that there are no words, there are only colors, and each color represents one stage of the gospel. The first is the perfect state in which God created humanity. Then, there's a page representing the sinful state that humanity is in now. This one represents Christ's blood and sacrifice. And then this page represents the cleanness, the holiness that we can now have because of what Jesus did on the cross. And then finally, the color green represents Christian growth. This evangelistic tool is amazingly useful for sharing the gospel with children because it doesn't use words, which means they don't have to have learned to read yet. Christian Youth in Action equips teens to use this tool. In addition, they're first taught how to teach the Bible and share the gospel with children, but then they have the opportunity to practice it in front of instructors and peers so that they can be evaluated and receive constructive feedback on how they can improve their teaching and their communication of the gospel and of God's truth. This is an amazing way to equip and capacitate teens to share the truth of God's word with children in their local area, which they then go do. After the training camp is over, teens go back to their local chapters or the divisions within the state. And for the rest of the summer, they go out and implement their training in a 5-day club format. A 5-day club is a very similar concept to VBS, a Vacation Bible School, if you're familiar with that. The idea is each day for a week, a team of teens goes and shares their training, what they've learned, their teachings, with children for about an hour. So a 5-day club will usually start with a song that encourages the children and that praises God, and then there will be a brief teaching about prayer. There will be a teaching about missionaries. A new memory verse will be taught each day so that the children can hide God's word in their hearts. And then the structure of a 5-day club centers around an evangelistic Bible lesson. Now, the Bible lesson doesn't just teach a story from the Bible, although it does that, but it also applies events in the story to the gospel, making the connection between what has happened in God's word and how that represents God's redemptive plan throughout history. Then the gospel is explained to children using this format so that they can hear God's plan to reconcile them to right relationship with himself in a way that's much clearer and simpler on their level. Christian Youth in Action for me was more than just a program. It was a discipleship context. Myself and my brother and several of our friends would spend each weekday throughout the summer going from location to location, teaching the Bible and sharing the gospel. But in between, we would hang out together, and our team leader discipled us. He mentored us, teaching us how to live godly lives, opening God's Word together and just reading and understanding what that meant for our daily lives was so important, because even though we were teachers of the Bible to children, we still needed to be taught the Bible. And even though we were sharing the gospel, it's so important for Christians to understand the gospel a little bit better every single day. Our team leader would teach us how to live in a way that honored God more and more, how to overcome the battles in our Christian lives. Finally, our favorite activity in between clubs was worship. Myself and my two closest friends all played the guitar, so we loved to break out our guitars and just sing to the Lord. In fact, we would often learn the evangelistic songs that we were sharing in our 5-day clubs on our guitars, so that we could bring the guitar into the club and play it with the kids, which was such an engaging opportunity. The children loved to sing songs that were being played. There was something more real, more engaging about that for the children that we were sharing the gospel with. So in conclusion, I would say that Christian Youth in Action was actually the primary context of my spiritual formation. And I thank God so much for giving me that amazing opportunity in my journey with Him. And I'd thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to share with you about it.